So more news today out of North Korea. North Korea fired a ballistic missile today, Wednesday morning. That's what time it is in Korea. It's actually Wednesday of next week, too. They don't tell you that.
It's actually, yeah.
It was the first time they fired a missile in better than 2 months. Oddly enough, defying demands from President Trump that they halt their weapons program. And it obviously significantly raises the stakes in the what could become, in worst case scenario, a nuclear-fueled battle on the Korean Peninsula. This is the news today, which means that this, from when President Trump addressed the United Nations.
Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime. The United States is ready, willing, and able, but hopefully this will not be necessary.
So here are the details on what happened today. From the New York Times, Graphic 19, North Korea fired an intercontinental ballistic missile early Wednesday for the first time in 4 months. The missile took off around Pyongyang at 3:17 in the morning, flew east for about 53 minutes before landing off the north of Honshu. That's Japan's largest island, nearly 600 miles from the launch site. Again, the indications would be that, as you might imagine, that North Korea just sort of plows ahead and does what it wants, regardless of what any U.S. administration has said. The Trump people will try to blame this on Obama and the Obama administration and the foreign policy team there, that they left this mess. But the reality is that things have gone best for North Korea when we have engaged with them most. We are engaging now with them least. But this is a problem that has existed for American presidents since the end of the Korean police action.
Right.
In
it is. Yeah. This the way the time works is it was 3 o'clock in the morning in 1958 right. is when they shot. Except they have nukes now.
Right. That's right.
That's the difference. Yeah. It's weird because they took 2 months off between the era when a few 2 months ago when they were essentially shooting off a rocket every few weeks, or if not more often, and folks are wondering why the hell is that happening.
Well, let's take a look real quick at Graphic 21 here. North Korea has now test-fired 15 missiles so far in 2017, conducted its 6th underground nuclear test in September. So this has been a particularly busy year for North Korea testing weapons.
They took time off. What was the reason for that? Some could, there's one approach that could say, well, they weren't ready with this missile yet. It was delayed, and so they couldn't launch something that wasn't ready. Maybe there was some kind of problem they had technologically, or in the meantime, things that have happened are President Trump went to Asia to try to rally support. There was an envoy sent from China to North Korea. Maybe they wanted to see just exactly how hot China wanted to exert pressure or not, or what kinds of things they wanted to say in their meeting in between then. And then also there was the raising, the levying of sanctions from the UN Security Council and increased sanctions and putting North Korea back on the list of state sponsors of terror, and maybe they had some kind of administrative issues that they needed to see to kind of handle the repercussions of that change in policy.
North Korea, all that is entirely possible. So is North Korea was waiting for the return of Dennis Rodman, who was posing, of course, as a nuclear scientist and breaking into Los Alamos to get the final details that Kim Jong-un needs.
Teach us how to rebound from this crisis.
What strikes me as most likely is that Pyongyang, which I know how to pronounce well because I watched MASH.
Good for you.
Is that they're operating on their own timetable, and it really doesn't matter what happens around them. I mean, if there is a compelling reason to scale back, if they're engaged, then maybe they will. We haven't seen that before, and I'm not suggesting that a different administration would have North Korea engaged in a more meaningful way. But they're headed for their 70th anniversary, and I think that they want to say on their 70th anniversary, our nuclear program is complete.
Yeah.
We have it, we're ready, we're 70, and we're betting 70 is the new 50, and we're ready to bomb.
And they're gonna do it in the kind of like commercial propaganda that mimics like a Cialis commercial. like you're getting up there in age. Make sure your heart is healthy enough for nuclear activity.
Both of you.
But like that's the kind of weird we're gonna see a weird propaganda video that will kind of offset how terrifying it is that they're doing this.
You think Kim Jong-un's gonna have a weird propaganda video?
That's what I can't wait for.
It'll be very mainstream.
Yeah.
International crisis, guys.
But of course they're trying. Of course they're trying to establish some kind of nuclear program. They want to have it done. Things that have happened that you can point to Trump for doing is, saying that the nuclear deal is bad, and it's not just him. This has happened. No one solved the North Korea problem. If you say that one side was better at it, like the person who took North Korea, as far as I remember, off the lists of state sponsors of terror was George W. Bush. Like that happened, and no one has solved it. Trump has undercut. You want to send a message that like if you back off your nuclear program, things are going to go a lot better for you. But if you look at what's happened in Iran, they agreed to a nuclear deal, and Trump has done nothing but try to undercut that. Libya, give up your nuclear weapons program. All right, we're going to eventually someone's going to drag Gaddafi through a ditch. Like that promise hasn't been delivered on, and it's a lot of people's faults or decisions or what have you. But it seems like if you're North Korea and your priority is to stay in power, you don't see a clear path towards staying in power that involves giving up your nuclear arsenal and plans.
While Rex Tillerson is not Mike Flynn, he's not David Clark, he's not Sarah Huckabee Sanders, he's not Mike Huckabee, he's not any of the Trump kids, right? He's not Steve Bannon or Roger Stone. He is not a raving lunatic, right? Who should have no Alex Jones, who should have no Sean Hannity, who should not have no influence whatsoever in the government. He will go down as the worst Secretary of State in American history, modern American history, because we had some with some other issues. He has no business at this job. He's not interested in this job. The mere fact that we want to like him now because he hates Trump and Trump hates him is a point in his favor, but it is literally the only point in his favor.
Sure.
And the notion that this administration selected as the guy to lead the State Department in these incredibly troubling times, which they kept talking about, these troubling times that the Obama administration left us in, that they would hire an oil executive to head the Department of State is an outrage that we have let slip off the table of outrages, because I got it, we've had 1,000 more. But he has no business in the job. The stories are that he does not want the job, and we are seeing professionals leave the State Department in droves. And there is going to be an impact for that, in that eventually we will run out, we may have already reached that point, of the North Korea experts. Partially, I don't blame them for leaving, because they're like, hey, nobody's listening to me. I've been working on North Korea. I knew his father, I knew his grandfather. I've been working, my life is understanding what North Korea's done. We know they're not being invited to the table. And we know that a couple weeks ago, Rex Tillerson devoted tons of State Department resources to finding Hillary Clinton emails.
Right.
So for the love of God, stop touting Rex Tillerson as an answer to anything. He isn't, and it is as bad a move as Trump has made in the fractious, dangerous world that we live in, that he appointed an oil executive from Exxon to run the Department of State.
You just watched the video by the Young Turks, the home of the revolution. If you'd like to get the full show, come join us and become a member. TYTnetwork.com/join.